The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod. We're coming to you live from the Warner Center in Woodland Hills, California. My desk is already a mess, isn't it? It's the way the morning has been. You know what they say, messy desk, maybe you're accomplishing something. I don't know. Anyway, we're thrilled to be here with you on this Thursday morning. We haven't been doing a lot of Thursdays throughout the summer, but we're here today and we're excited to be here. We're going to be with you live for the next 2 hours talking about autism from a 360-degree perspective, looking at all the ways that it touches all of us in the community. And I said this yesterday, I always say this, to me, the autism community is individuals who are on the autism spectrum, of course, but everybody who loves them as well. To me, that is our community, and I count myself very proudly in that community because I am the mother of a young man who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2.5. Thrilled that he was able to get the help and the supports and the services that he needed so that he is now a 15-year-old and doing really well. And I can now be a person who's doing really well knowing that my kid is doing well, right? So it's meaningful to me, and that is why I want to be here with you, and I want to help you to get to the resources that you need and deserve. And I understand from a very realistic point of view that it's not one size fits all, that what I needed and what my family needed is not necessarily what your family needs, but let's figure it out together. What do you need? What's available? And as we see so often on the show, when you can't find what's available, there are lots of wonderful parents and teachers and therapists and all members of the community who, when they don't have what they need, they create it. Didn't we love that poetry teacher yesterday? Oh my gosh, let's populate the world with people like that. Life-changing. In any case, we've got a lot of things that we want to cover here. Samantha's going to show you some of the different ways that you can connect with us. I'm looking for things that I've rearranged underneath my desk. So I want to tell you while she's showing you that we there are lots of ways that you can connect with us, but one of them is our website, which is autism-live.com. Now, when you go there, you're going to see that there's a lot of things to do, and one of them is to watch the live show or the most recently recorded live show. You can do that by clicking on the triangle that is on the computer screen on our website. Also, there is something called the live feature just to the side, which if you put your cursor in the box that says your question, you can start typing and hit enter, and it will show up here on my screen, and in that way you and I can have a conversation somewhat in real time. There is about a 2 to 3 minute time lag depending on where you are in the world and how fast the internet is that day. But we can have a conversation. But I really stress that more importantly, I think, than you and I even having a conversation is that you can have a conversation with any of the experts that we have here on the show. And I'm very proud of the people that we feature on the show. And we got some great guests today. I'm at that age where it's like I need 7 pairs of glasses. Like I need 1 pair of glasses to see you and another pair of glasses to read to you. I do have some questions that came in overnight that I want to get to, and we are going to do that. But I do want to remind everybody within the sound of my voice that while we do have experts that are here on the show, I'm not one of them. I don't ever profess to be an autism expert. As I mentioned, I'm an autism mom, and I have been on this journey in this community now for 12 plus years. And I would like to think that I've learned a few things along the way, but I'm still learning. And I'm not an expert in autism. I am not even an expert in my own kid. I'm not an expert in in any way, shape, or form. I'm not even an expert in being a mom in this community. Let's just say that. Let's be honest. But what I do have going for me is that I care deeply. So don't mistake me for an expert, but do mistake me for somebody who has an opinion. And I'm always happy to give you my opinion that I give freely, right? But I'm not an expert. Okay, so somebody has written in, for example, and says, where can I find a good Dan doctor in California? And I will tell you that Dan no longer exists. They discovered that there was a conflict with the name, and so they disbanded Dan. What was Dan became ARI, the Autism Research Institute, and the portion that was led by doctors became MedMaps. So I would tell you, though, if you're looking for a review of doctors, the best place to go is to TACA, TACAnow.org. Because that's a group of parents who very much utilize the old Dan doctors, which are now the MedMaps doctors. And if you're looking, ask them. Go on TACA, and you can either find a support group in the area that you're in, or you can ask a question on any one of their social media sites and say to them, this is what I'm looking for. And do tell them specifically what you're looking for, because MedMaps doctors will specialize. They are doctors that did something before they got into the field of autism. So some of them are neurologists, some of them are homeopaths, some of them, there's a really good doctor in Ventura County that was a sports medicine doctor, and then his child was diagnosed with autism, and then he decided that he wanted to apply everything that he and his wife were learning to a practice. So, it really is going to depend on what it is you're looking for and what specific issues your child is having. But the TACA people will be able to help you to find that doctor in California. So there we have it. Okay, there's another question, but we'll get to that in just a little while. Samantha, did I have you show all the ways that we let everybody contact yet? I did. I don't know whether I'm coming or going today. So let's talk a little bit about, let's go to the jargon of the day, because it's that time of the day. We always do one word, one phrase, one acronym on Thursdays to help us to figure out what are the experts talking about. I don't know about you, but doesn't it just make you tired sometimes? It does. It does. But you can't give up. And this is one of the things that I learned along the way, that is, if you learn these terms and can use them, it's power. It's power in a lot of different ways. It's power because then it shows the people that you're dealing with that you're not somebody that can just be rolled over, that you know which way is up, and so they can't take advantage of you. And let me just tell you, that's a really powerful thing. But it also gives you the ability to talk proficiently with the experts about what you or your kiddo needs. So let's take a look at what our jargon term for today is. There it is, FBA. And you hear us talk about this a lot. I remember hearing this the first time and going, FBI? We're calling in the FBI? No, it's FBA, and that stands for Functional Behavior Assessment. Okay, so I know you just go, oh, I just like, ugh, alphabet land, right? It makes you sick to your stomach. But let's take a look at what our actual definition of an FBA is. There it is. It's a multi-step problem-solving assessment process designed to determine the function of a behavior. It's always my favorite thing when we put the same words that are in the title of it into the definition. So a functional behavior assessment, and it's the function of a behavior. That's helpful. That's elucidative, right? Is that even a word? In any case, let's go to our working definition and see if we can't pare this down a little bit. So an FBA is an essential process that helps us understand why a challenging behavior is happening so that we can change it effectively. Okay, it's that thing of don't put the cart before the horse. Did your grandmother used to say that too? That when you see a behavior, and a lot of times we'll see behavior out of somebody who's on the autism spectrum, but let's face it, we see behavior out of all kinds of people. Turn on the news and you'll see behavior and you wonder, why are they doing that? Especially when you see that it's harmful to them or that it's not productive. And it's important to remember that all behavior has a reason, and all behavior has a paycheck that is important to the individual that is doing the behavior. All of it. All of it. So when you see somebody behaving badly, for instance, you see somebody that's constantly in the tabloids and they're doing things and you go, why are they doing that? Why are they doing things that are bad for themselves? Well, a lot of times we'll find that the function of that behavior, and the function means that it's functional, it's getting them something. So, but what it's getting them is attention. And attention is a very powerful motivator, right? And it isn't logical to us. We think, well, but wouldn't you want good attention? Yes, but if you can't get good attention, guess what is almost as good? Bad attention. And it's true. And this is not just for kids, and this is not just for kids on the autism spectrum. This is true for people who need attention. And let's face it, we all need a certain amount of attention, right? When I used to teach, I would think of my kids as buckets, and that there were a certain number of things that needed to go in the bucket. And if the bucket didn't get full, then the bucket would cry out. Right? And so for the kids who needed attention, man, you got to fill that bucket on a regular basis. And when you fill that bucket, they are happy campers and they will learn and you can teach them, right? But if you don't fill that bucket first, it's like a hunger. If kids are in the classroom and their bellies are rumbling because they're hungry, they don't learn as well. I think, enough studies have been done about that. But attention is a hunger, right? We know Maslow's hierarchy of needs. People have needs so attention is just one of them, but it is a driving force. So when we see a challenging behavior, before you get into the behaviorist mindset, right? Sometimes behavior just looks weird. But if you start to think as a behaviorist does and think, okay, but that behavior has a function, what is the function of the behavior? Once you, sometimes you have to postulate an idea, but it's better to do it in a scientific way. And that's what an FBA does. An FBA, as it said in the definition, it's multi-step. One of the first things that they do is they interview the people involved in the behavior. So if somebody is viewing the behavior, they'll ask them, what does it look like? When does it happen? Do you notice that it happens after this, after that, right? Then they will try to observe the behavior. And there are many other steps to a functional behavior assessment, but the whole thing is to arrive scientifically at an idea of what the paycheck is for the behavior. And once you know what the paycheck for the behavior is, the science has already, they're always perfecting it, but the science really has been done on what do you do to intervene for attention-getting behavior. So here is the spoiler alert, that once you know somebody's engaging in a challenging behavior, something that's not good for them, not good for others in the room, and once you know what the function of the behavior is, you need to set about making sure that they don't get the paycheck. You separate the behavior from the paycheck. So if the paycheck is, I got attention, we cut it off. We cut the supply off and we don't give them attention for it. Now, if it's something that's happening in the tabloids, that isn't easy, right? Because we can't go around and say to everybody, don't buy that newspaper. Just don't buy it, right? Because they're not going to all adhere to that. So sometimes it's difficult, but when you can, whatever it is that the person is trying to get with this challenging behavior, if you can cut them off from that supply, that's going to go a long way. It isn't the only thing you have to do. The other thing you have to do is teach them something that functionally gives them the thing that they wanted. So if they wanted attention and the way they were getting it was by spitting at people, well, obviously that's a challenging behavior, right? We don't want that. So we stop giving them attention for spitting. We prevent them from having an opportunity to spit, and we teach them another way to ask for attention that actually gets them the attention. And when we do things in this way, it works. It works. It just works. Because if what I want is for you to pay attention to me and I have an easier way of doing it that actually works, I'm going to do that. This is why an FBA is so important. It's so important that we don't assume. So often we think we know what the function of a behavior is, but especially when it's something that has the potential to hurt somebody, it's important to get a true FBA. And somebody with an outside eye. I always tell the story about Jem in the store and that he would throw a tantrum in the same place. And I've told you all about, taking data on something and folding the sheet up and saying, what was the behavior? What did it look like? What happened before? What was the consequence? All of that is great, but sometimes you need a third eye. You need somebody outside the equation to look at it. And it wasn't until somebody outside looked at it and said, oh, there's a change in the floor. That's where he's having the tantrum. I was assuming it was attention. It wasn't. It was a sensory thing. Don't assume. Get it, especially when somebody has the potential to be hurt, get somebody that knows what they're doing, a BCBA or somebody well-trained to do an FBA. Now, in the school, this is your friend. If they send home a note saying to you, oh, your child was doing XYZ in class today and we don't allow that, this is your warning flag that should go up in your head, and the next note that you should write back, first of all, you want to say, well, what happened right before, right? So you begin to take data. But then the next sentence should be, so I would like for you to do an FBA on this behavior. If it continues, I want you to do an FBA on this behavior. Because if you don't, it always mystifies me. They need to notify you what's happening, but that notification becomes like you're responsible. Like your Mrs. Incredible and your arm can stretch from your home to school to stop your child from doing something. No, right? And if your child continues to do those things, eventually you'll say, well, they can't really be in this setting because they can't control themselves. Well, they can't control themselves because you didn't handle the behavior. First step is you ask for the FBA. They should have a school BCBA or a school psychologist who's qualified to do an FBA. They come in, they look at it. A behavior intervention plan is put in place that has all those things that I was talking about, that identifies the function, says here's what we're going to do to cut it off from the supply, here's what the replacement behavior that we're going to teach them so that they can get this need met. We don't just say don't do that. That doesn't work. We say, here's a better way to get your needs met. And it works. It works. So FBA is your friend. Request it when your child is engaging in a behavior that is a problem. Ask somebody to do an FBA, a functional behavior assessment. It will tell you what the paycheck is. And when you know what the paycheck is, it's the keys to the kingdom. Yay, FBA. Okay, moving on. We always have a question of the day for you we like to ask, and if we have time, we like to check out what you guys have to say. Sometimes I get to it after the show. What's the one thing that you want to accomplish this summer? If there was one thing that you could do, we're just about, we're not midway through the summer, but realistically, because of school, when school goes back to school, we're midway through the summer. So if you just could accomplish one thing, what would it be? Now is the time to focus up and get something done. And it can be something pleasurable, like you just want to take more time for yourself. You want to take longer walks. You want to swim every day. You want to exercise every day. You want to eat better. You want to read 3 books. I don't know. What is it for you? What do you want to accomplish this summer? I'm having a problem this week because for the first time in my life, I seriously think for the first time in my life, I said this and then I accomplished it already. And then all last week I was like, well, okay, what do I do now? I don't know. So yeah, the next week we'll talk about when you set a goal and meet it, because our kids will all the time. How do you get through that hump? But this week I want to know, what do you want to accomplish this summer? Maybe you're in the same boat as me and you already accomplished it. This is new territory for me. I don't know what to do about that. But it's a quality problem. I'm enjoying having it. All right. And then we got a great show for you. Let's talk a little bit about, I didn't do the topic. What is with me today, Samantha? We haven't done a Thursday in a while. She's like, stop, you haven't done the topic. Okay, so the topic of the week, I love this, is back to basics, because now is the moment. Now is the moment. If you're like me and you let things get a little loosey-goosey at the beginning of the summer and said to your kid, oh, we can stay up a little later, we can sleep a little later, it's the summer. Now is the moment when we got to rein it all in. We got to bring it back to basics. We got to figure out what are we trying to do and how are we trying to accomplish it. We're mid-year. You may have had some New Year's resolutions, whatever. It's time to revisit. And when we revisit, it's not just beating ourselves up and going, oh, I didn't do that. It's also a time to say, what's important and what am I trying to accomplish? And you know, when we, in the past on the show, when we've talked about acceptance commitment therapy, and that whenever you're having a conflict, it's because two things that are important to you are butting heads. And it's really important to set yourself up a hierarchy and say, what's more important here? Both of these things are important, but what's more important in this moment? What am I trying to achieve? And every time that I've been able to sort this out and do this, oh my gosh, it's like clarity, and then you get stuff done. I have said so many times in the last 12 years, 10 years, because the first 2 years we were in it and figuring it out. But if I could apply in my life the principles that we applied towards helping our son and that we put towards autism, man, I can get much more done. And so I want to share with you what we did in terms of autism that helped us to be effective. And we didn't invent it. I'm taking no ownership for this, but we had other people who said to us, you got to get clear on what you're trying to accomplish, because your life has been all over here and now you're on autism train and you have to be clear. And every year we would write ourselves out a manifesto that would say, here's what's most important. And every time, and there were plenty of times that we would get into conflict with something. There was one time where my husband was looking at, because he's an actor, and there was an opportunity to do something, and he was like, I don't know. And I said, let's go look at the manifesto. And it says right there, that this is important. So you got to take this opportunity. So, and then we both went, oh, and we stopped being in angst about it because it made sense. Oh, we've clarified what our values are for this period of time, but they change. When our kids grow and our kids get better, things change. So you got to check in every once in a while and go, is that really what's most important to us? Oh my gosh, I don't know if that is the most important thing. Let's rearrange it, right? So we're getting back to basics today. So we're going to talk a little bit about that when we get to our mindfulness moment. But the people that we're having on the show today, and this is going to be really fun, we're welcoming back Bonnie Yates. She's been on a little bit of a summer hiatus, and so she's going to be with us to answer a bunch of questions that you guys have written in, most of them about school and back to school. Bonnie is a special education attorney, and so she helps us to sort out what our rights are and what we can potentially do and see and have happen legally. And then we've got a great interview coming up in just a few minutes ago with Manish Samnani, and he is an OT, an occupational therapist from India. I love to be able to share what's happening in other countries and other points of view. He has a center there called Soch. So there, he's going to talk to us about what they have going on there. And then a little bit later on, after Bonnie Yates in the second hour, we've got Linda B. Hall is going to be with us, and she's an amazing mom and the founder of something called Inclusion Clubhouse. They've got a prom coming up in just a week, and we're going to talk with her, a special needs prom, and we're going to talk to her about why that's so near and dear to her heart and how that power of one, why she as a mom started the Inclusion Clubhouse and what it is, what the mission is that they're trying to accomplish. So all of that plus your mindfulness moment coming up. Don't go far away. Take a look at this first though.
Hey guys, welcome back to Smarty. Today we're going to be making homemade glow-in-the-dark bouncy balls. So let's get started. The materials you'll be needing are 2 mixing bowls, something to stir with, measuring spoons, borax, cornstarch, water, glue, and glow paint and food coloring. So step 1, you're going to take one of your measuring bowls and you're going to measure out half a teaspoon of borax, 4 tablespoons of cornstarch, and 4 tablespoons of water. Then you're going to mix that all together. I'm going to set this aside. In another bowl, I'm going to mix my glue and my glow-in-the-dark paint and any food coloring I want to use to make it a special color. I two separate bowls with the mixtures in them. Now I'm going to put them together, letting them sit for the next 15 seconds, and then I'll stir them together. It's important that you let them sit for a moment before stirring so they can do their magical thing. Now that the 15 seconds is over, I'm going to stir together the mixture, making sure to stir thoroughly until I can no longer do it anymore. You'll see what I mean in a second. Now that I can no longer stir it, I'm going to start rolling around in my hands to make a ball. And voila, very own homemade bouncy ball. Woo! Well, I hope you had fun with this activity today. Until next time, craft on, guys.
Can you see me flying by your side?
Welcome back to Autism Live. As promised, we like to show you autism from all around the world, and today we are going to journey via Skype to India. I'm so thrilled to welcome to the show for the first time Manish Samnani. Hopefully I said it close to right. Manish, we're so thrilled to have you with us today. You are part of an organization called SOCH. Did I get that right? And you and your wife, I have heard wonderful tales about the amazing things that you guys do in India. Talk to us a little bit about what your area of focus in India is.
Right. First of all, thank you, and I'm very glad to be on this show. We are running a center called SOCH, which primarily works for children with developmental difficulties. We run an early intervention program, and we also run a program that takes care of their individualized therapeutic needs right up to the age of adulthood. We have an interdisciplinary kind of a model where there are multiple therapies like physiotherapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, special education, dance and movement therapy, language and communication, all being taken care of under one roof in a very, very coordinated and organized manner.
And you, in particular, you are yourself an occupational therapist, is that correct?
That's correct.
And you, your center likes to approach things from more of a sensory integration platform, is that accurate?
Correct.
Talk to us a little bit about what that means.
So we believe that children who have developmental difficulties primarily have a sensory integration base as a cause to their problem, and also the sensory integration theory can be used to devise specific strategies to help cope up with their difficulties. Children who are very young and are diagnosed with autism spectrum typically are looked at as having repetitive behaviors, as having behaviors which are odd and not so social. However, the sensory integration theory explains these things more as sensory needs of the child. A child who spins continuously is actually looking for the visual stimulation that comes out of that spinning as a source or as a diet for their brain, and hence they keep looking for it in an insatiable way, and that leads to what others call as repetitive behavior. That's one of the examples, but sensory integration can actually explain the behavioral manifestations that we see or we find very, very challenging in children with autism as something that are not unusual, as something that are very normal for any other individual. The only difficulty might be that the regulation of such needs may not be very good in the child because of the neurological, biological difficulties that they have.
And so how do you go about, do you try to counteract that so that the need isn't so high? What's the philosophy there? How do you deal with something like perpetual spinning?
The philosophy is that we need to make children understand their own sensory needs, give them an appropriate way or media or an activity or a task that actually fulfills their sensory need, in a more and more meaningful way and in a more and more age appropriate way. So for example, when a child is completely repetitive about spinning a wheel of a car, he's actually having a lot of difficulty with his age appropriate play skills. For him, the visual stimulation coming out of the car wheels are the only source of play and engagement. The work that we would do using the sensory integration perspective then would be to make sure that the child still gets the visual stimulation that he's looking for, but is also progressively mature in his adaptive responses that he gives towards the same object. So if he's only into spinning the wheel of the car, we might actually playfully engage with this child with the same car, but with some responses or reciprocal play or pretend play or a play that the child may not have ideas for, but we might put in those ideas as an invitation to the child to join in. So a child who is only spinning might actually push a car to the therapist and get it back from him to learn it is equal and even more fun to engage with the same object, but in a variety of ways than he was capable of because he had limited ideas to do it.
Absolutely. And you've
The
had
other
tremendous.
idea is to fulfill the need.
I'm sorry?
The idea is to fulfill the sensory need, however, to make it more and more age appropriate, meaningful use of the object as well.
And you've had tremendous success with this, correct?
Yes, of course. We have a very high success, especially because this intervention is also a very child-centered intervention. It does not believe in instructing the child. It does not believe in directing the child towards specific tasks, towards specific skills to be learned. It rather believes in engaging the child in a creative way so that a lot of responses are elicited rather than learned or taught.
Right. Which makes it reinforcing for the child. Now, you also, one of the things that I noticed on your website that you guys deal with is dyspraxia. Now, this kind of tripped me up a little bit. I was like, what's dyspraxia? Because here in the United States, the term that we use most often is apraxia, but I understand that it's the same thing. Is that correct?
I mean, the nature of difficulty might be same, but apraxia typically comes out of a very clear neurological deficit. Say, for example, when an adult has a stroke or when they have a neurological insult, which can be clearly diagnosed on a scan or something. However, dyspraxia is a developmental condition. It primarily comes out of sensory integration deficit. It comes out of because the sensory systems cannot integrate with each other. You will have difficulties in day-to-day simple ordinary activities despite having normal neurological status, despite having normal intellectual ability. Frequently children with autism also have dyspraxia, and it is difficult for them to learn simple day-to-day tasks like dressing self, brushing, taking care of yourself. However, dyspraxia is frequently known to coexist without autism as well. And in this case, the child is very normally communicating. However, his struggles with motor tasks, very simple, ordinary motor tasks, confuses anyone to understand and see why would that happen in a child who is otherwise very, very regular child.
Sorry about that. There's always interruptions, right? That's the nature of live. It's all good. But so how at the center are you guys working on dyspraxia?
So the occupational therapy perspective takes care of, again, the sensory integration in the child, wherein the child comes to us and engages in very, very challenging motor activities, where we ask the child or encourage the child to plan their motor actions by themselves. We usually tell the child the outcome of a physical task. So for example, I might tell a child, I need you to reach from this place or this swing to the other point. However, I do not tell him how and what kind of equipment or what kind of steps would he actually sequence within his brain to actually do that, to actually execute and reach that point. What happens then is that the child is required to cope up with the situation, bring up their own ideas, which and it's pretty open-ended because this is a child-centered intervention. All ideas which are logically fine are all acceptable. There is no idea that is to be changed or modified by the therapist. However, what we want the child to understand is that for reaching an outcome, you had to plan some actions, you had to sequence them, and also execute them successfully, and then you were able to do it. What we are trying to do here is to, in a way, improve the wiring of the brain. We are trying to make their brain functional areas much more efficient to take up those tasks in not just a clinic environment, but also generalize it to a day-to-day situation. What we want them ultimately is to be very, very independent with their daily living tasks, be it be handwriting, be it be dressing, be it be taking care of your household or your school supplies by yourself.
Really teaching them how to learn and apply what they know to new circumstances, which is the generalization. Love it. So, but also in India, you guys are being a wonderful resource for ongoing education. I know that you've got some events that are coming up. Talk to us a little bit about that.
So we believe in a constantly engaging in professional development at a very, very broader and higher level, where we want to constantly tie up with global bodies, institutions, or universities to come to us and share what is out there, and to try and see how it is how it can be adapted, modified, and then put into the community or the culture that we have here. In this way, what we have done till now is to collaborate with Autism Movement Therapy, Joanne Lara, and she came and visited India 5 years back, and again recently 1 year back, wherein she brought in the concept of expressive arts using music and movement to bring out a change in children, to bring out a sense of inclusion in children. At that time, when we invited Joanne, there was no information in India regarding use of non-directed, uh, not so instructional based interventions that take care of a child's inner drives. So we were really pioneering without much of information that we are putting into our culture a whole new paradigm of information, of a whole new paradigm of knowledge base, from where various things could be taken up for improving behavioral skills, social skills, putting the autism movement therapy program into school systems. We now in Soch have a separate program called the music and movement therapy program, where children having variable amount of difficulties join in on weekends, and the parents are happy to see how willingly, how voluntarily, and happily they are ready to engage in reciprocal communication, social skills, which was otherwise so difficult to teach them in a clinic kind of an environment.
Absolutely.
So and we are also collaborating with Adelphi University this time in November and December, wherein Stephen Shore will be joining in Joanne Lara, and 3 more faculties, one from the music therapy background, one from the sand art group background, and one from the music and movement background, to bring in a 5-day course to make sure that there is a complete certification program for empowerment and knowledge of the professionals here.
And so I just want to congratulate you on the work that you're doing in India. And where are you actually located?
We are located in a very near Delhi, in a city called Gurgaon. And Delhi is, like you know, the capital city of the country, and we are located very close to the airport.
And I'm curious because funding is always an issue. Wherever you are in the world, funding is an issue. Where do you find that your families in India primarily get their funding? Is it mostly private pay?
Yes. So in India, the primary source of funding used to be uh, the parents themselves, the self-funding kind of a mechanism. However, things seem to change a little bit, wherein the insurance companies are slowly getting into the picture. However, the onus of funding still seems to be primarily on the parents themselves.
Well, I hope that things keep going in the direction of insurance because that will make these kinds of programs accessible for so many more. But I really want to congratulate you. I've heard nothing but amazing things about what you and your wife are doing there. And I want to congratulate you on all the help you are giving to the autism community there in India. Thank you so much for being with us. Is there anything else that you want to say before we leave?
I would like to say that the 5-day program with five different faculties in November and December is again something which is a very path-breaking and pioneering course that is going to happen. It covers the expressive arts paradigm. It also gives you a unique opportunity to have credits from the Adelphi University of New York. To my knowledge, such a group of highly skilled professionals coming together to do a program in Delhi and in another neighboring country, Bangladesh, and the city is Dhaka, is something that is an opportunity for any caregiver, a professional, or a school teacher to come in, join in, and learn something that can make the autism children's life much more beautiful in whatever environment they are in.
I also want to say too, it's an opportunity for people to gather together. We have many moms in particular who are watching from India that are working really hard on their own to help their children, and they would love to feel a sense of community. And what a wonderful event to be able to come together, meet other people, exchange ideas, and get to see some of the hope and what's happening in the right direction. So I want to congratulate you on providing that. And of course, on the flyer, you could see the information of how to get a hold of him. Let's show their website one more time again, Samantha. So here is the website for the organization, and you can go there to find out more about the event that's happening in December, but other events that you have coming up as well. Correct, Manish?
Yes, we have a sensory integration certification program with University of Southern California that is coming up. It's actually going on, and we are going to conclude in July. From time to time, there are parent organizations that are inviting SOCH to conduct training on behavior management through sensory integration. We are also doing separate programs for professionals like occupational therapists and speech therapists to train them in specific techniques to manage and treat children with autism. These programs run through me, through my wife Malvika, who is also an occupational therapist, and several other senior team members of SOCH. And we are getting a lot of queries from different organizations to do team training, which could be a multidisciplinary team training in terms of developing a clear philosophy and also getting a knowledge of updated information, updated therapies available in the world about autism.
Remarkable thing that you're doing. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. I know it's quite late where you are, but you're a busy guy. Like you had people trying to get a hold of you during this interview, even though it's late. You need to tell them you go off the clock at a certain time.
I think I'm trying to do whatever best I can, because I am this is not just my work and profession, but this is where my heart lies, and I want to make sure that a challenge like autism is suitably worked with, dealt with, and managed in such a way that it brings about joy and happiness in the lives of these children.
Wonderful. What a fabulous way to end the interview. Thank you so much for being with us. Our best to your wife as well.
Thank you so much.
Take care. Wonderful, wonderful interview. All right, we'll be back in just a few minutes after these messages with more of Autism Live.
Do you provide care services to someone with autism? Recently, more and more children are being diagnosed with the condition and getting the support they need as awareness grows. But what happens to these children as they grow up? It's estimated that over 500,000 youth with autism will turn 18 in the next decade, and they'll be faced with a very difficult reality. As children with autism grow up, their services start to disappear or become very difficult to access. Things like medical care, mental health counseling, vocational training, and more. All services that are still desperately needed. The loss of support that youth with autism face as they grow up is so severe that it's referred to in the autism community as falling off a cliff. Adults with autism need the same level of support they had as children to avoid falling off the services cliff. Introducing Skills Living, the web-based software designed specifically to help transitioning youth and adults with autism so they can avoid the cliff and instead fly to success. With Skills Living, help your learner with autism develop the skills they need in all the critical areas of adult life, including self-control, planning, and problem-solving, effective communication, performing life skill tasks for independent living, acquiring and maintaining employment or other meaningful activities, developing and maintaining social skills and relationships, accessing transportation and public services, and being safe. Skills Living includes a comprehensive assessment, a data collection mobile app, behavior intervention plan builder, and automatic progress reporting. It also provides a complete curriculum addressing 16 key areas spanning the entire range of functioning adulthood. Skills Living is easy to use and can be implemented by schools, parents, and autism service providers. Call or click today for your free demo and see how Skills Living can help your learner with autism avoid the cliff and instead reach their fullest potential. Skills Living. Wish, learn, become.
Welcome back, everybody. We're so thrilled to be back, and thrilled to be back with Bonnie Yates, who's been she's been off on a little bit of a summer adventure, as we've been off on summer adventures. And so, Bonnie, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
And I should
Hey, everybody.
Hi. And I should say that we're figuring out some Skype issues, and so we're going to have Bonnie on the phone today. But that's still a thrill a minute. For those of you who don't know Bonnie, Bonnie Yates is a really incredible special education attorney here in the Los Angeles area. She works with the law firm of Hirji and Chow, and she is remarkable. And she joins us on a regular basis for a segment that we call Legal Matters, Legal Support and Legal Matters, because these things do matter. And we do need the support because a lot of times this is not the arena that we were born into. And suddenly we have to learn all these autism things, and now we need to learn what our legal rights are in order to deal with schools and other entities to make sure that our kiddos get what is legally their right. So Bonnie, we're so thrilled. Tell us a little bit about Hirji and Chow and give us the disclaimer if you would.
Okay, well, Hirji and Chow is a 4-attorney law firm. We're waiting for people to pass the bar. We're located in Culver City, California. Our practice is special education, higher education, which means people go on to college and they also have special ed issues, and then disability discrimination under the ADA, and there are parallel state statutes. So it's kind of, we even do general ed issues. So it's kind of like all education and disabilities all the time.
And an incredible firm, and we encourage people, Samantha just put the website up, we encourage people to go to their website, which is a wealth of knowledge, or you can give them a call, and you guys regularly do an intake process that is a free consultation.
That is true.
Where, if you need to pick somebody's brain, this is a great way to do it. What do you know what the number is to call, Bonnie? I should know it by now.
Thank you, boy, I'm out of practice. It's 3910330.
Fabulous. And then we always like to do a disclaimer at the beginning of the segment. So go ahead and tell people.
Yeah, I'm really out of practice. I'm making Shannon do all the work. So we're giving you answers to general questions. We are not, attempting to deal too much with specific situations unless we specifically say that we are. We're answering questions mainly under California law because that's the state I'm licensed in. And since IDEA has federal provisions, we also answer some questions under federal law. But we're always encouraging people to go to the COPA website. That's COPAA.net. That's the Council of Parent Advocates and Attorneys, which is a national organization of over 2,000 special education attorneys. And so if you're in Ohio, 3 or 4 people that are probably pretty reputable if they're taking the trouble and expense to belong to this organization. So, you can go to that particular website, find an attorney in your state, and, it's kind of never too soon as far as I'm concerned. I've pretty much given up after the last, 9 months. I've kind of given up on conciliatory problem solving with the district because I just don't think anything but due process works. So that's my outrageous radical statement with which I'm going to begin the program.
Well, I will say this, that I think a lot of times we try to be underreactive with lawyers because it feels like it's escalating when you get lawyers. But I just went through this process with someone that I care deeply about, and I kept nudging them, going, don't let them get away with things. Don't let them get away with it. Be proactive. Bring in experts. Bring in, legal. And they did not want to do that. And then they did it. And afterwards they went, oh, I see what you mean now. You get more done when they see you mean business. It's a world.
Well, maybe we have to drill down on this right before answering the questions.
Yeah.
Because I'm so kind of both disturbed and inspired by everything that's happened the last few years that I'm going to be training, or doing the training outline for law clerks and new lawyers when we hire them. And I'm going to have a discussion about this problem. And the problem is that the whole system is turned upside down on its head, and you don't get anywhere at the IEP level in about 99% of cases. And parents are very afraid to become adversarial for a couple of reasons. One is sometimes parents have back channel information at school, like they'll have a teacher that's like doing this, don't tell them I told you this but stuff.
Yeah.
And they feel like that is important, and by extension, it's also important to have a good relationship with your kid's teacher because everybody knows that's important and helpful. The problem with all of that is the teacher can only do so much. Like the teacher can tell you, your son needs a one-to-one aide. And that's really what he needs. And that person needs to be an ABA trained aide, not one of our district aides.
Right.
But then if they tell you that and then they accompany it by saying, oh, but I won't be able to say this in an IEP meeting because I'm going to get in trouble. What do you do with that?
Yeah.
So here's the problem with IEPs. I mean, IEPs are scheduled at no more than 30-day intervals. And if you're getting an assessment, they have up to 60 days to complete the assessments before holding the IEP. And in the summer, they don't have any, when, parents might have a little more time, there's no ability to meet at all. So it's really messed up. And even though people think going to an IEP is quicker and maybe they don't have to pay as large of a retainer as if they were to go to due process, the due process is actually really fast. Like, we can bang out a due process complaint in 4 to 8 hours, which is less time than it takes to prepare, travel to, and attend an IEP. And once we file that, like within 15 days of the filing of the due process, we're going to have our first opportunity to have a settlement conference with the district. And the big secret that nobody really wants to talk about on the school district side is they settle almost everything. So in our office, we are in due process all the time.
Yeah.
A very large number of our cases are in due process. And the reason is Parents get reimbursed for their fees, and they get some people at the table that can do something besides just say, well, we're offering you FAPE.
Right.
Well, sorry, but, we can't discuss a private placement. Well, we don't give lindamood-bell reading. And so to me now, it's just like, it's mostly a waste of time for parents to go to IEP meetings unless they're going to an IEP meeting to set up their issues for due process. I know that's a really radical thing to say on the air, and probably it will offend people who think that they're really getting somewhere in an IEP meeting. But I would challenge them to tell me where it is that they think they're getting. Okay, so you got words changed in your goals. Okay, so you got 15 more minutes of speech and language services a week. I mean, like, what are you getting for all your trouble versus what do you need? That's the question you should be asking.
Absolutely.
We have so many parents now that are getting into due process because they want reimbursement for private school placements, and guess what? They're getting it.
And that's important for people to hear. And I just want to say, too, that, to your point, Bonnie, that a lot of times parents go, well, they hear due process and what they picture is going to court for 14 days and it costing them tens of thousands of dollars. And I just want to reiterate that what you pointed out is that most of those cases get settled before they go to due process, but it only happens when you file due process. So,
right, and I love that you comment because you remind me that I need to be more specific in my terminology. You file for due process, and what happens is the state of California assigns a case number to the case, and the district gets served with the thing, and so now the district knows that it's going to have to set up a resolution session, right, which the parent may opt to take, or the parent may opt to just wait for the mediation. Now, the thing that's interesting about that is districts by law are required to hold a resolution session, and if the parent wants them, the district can't waive them. And so sometimes I'm using that as if I'm afraid I'm not going to get the district to agree to mediate, or I want to start the discussion sooner, I'm using the resolution session to do that. But what does it look like? I drive to the district offices and I go and sit in some conference room with a couple of district administrators, and we may be able to talk about how to settle the case. And Shannon, you're absolutely right. When I file for due process, I am nowhere near the point where I'm actually thinking about going to hearing.
Right.
What I'm thinking about is there a substantial likelihood, like 80%, that when I go back to the same conference room and I sit down with, the special ed director and her attorney to mediate, that by the end of the day, we're going to have an agreement. And
right.
so it isn't going to court, it isn't subpoenaing 1 million witnesses, and it isn't even paying an astronomical amount of money. It's none of those things, and it's very effective.
Very effective. And I think also parents think, because we always say to them, this is a marathon, not a sprint. And so they tend to think of getting a lawyer on the team as being like, well, let's wait. Because it's a marathon, not a sprint. But the reality is, and I've seen it time and time again and experienced it myself, that when you are bringing expertise in early to a battle, let's say you bring in first grade and you've got the lawyer there and you set the standard and you get the aid in, first of all, your kid makes more progress earlier. But also it's harder to take the aid away than to add it in later. So when you pay for the expert earlier, that's going to affect the next 8 years of education. You're not going to need a lawyer every single year. Am I correct, Bonnie?
Yeah, and you raise another really good point, which is another reason for consulting with an attorney, is because the attorney is going to be able to look at your most recent district evaluation and figure out whether there's a basis for getting an independent, a private evaluation paid for at district expense. And so a lot of our folks who are really low income or even indigent are getting the right to have a really good evaluation that the district pays for, and then you come in and you kill them with their own evaluation, right. And that is a worthwhile IEP endeavor.
Absolutely.
And it's really necessary to have that if you're going to go to due process. And a good lawyer can help you write a letter like that in a reasonable amount of time. I mean, it might even take an hour and a half of the attorney's time
Right.
to read the evaluation and write the letter if it's going to be good. But let's just say the attorney does that. Then you get, a $5,000 neuropsychological evaluation that's going to be better than anything you've ever seen come out of the district.
Yeah.
It's just totally worth it.
Yeah, it is totally worth it. Dollar for dollar, it's completely worth it. Okay, how about we jump into some
Let's
questions?
do the questions.
Okay,
See
they kind of go hand in hand.
When I don't get on the air for a long time, I sort of stew in my own juices, and I
all
become
good.
too adversarial. Anyway.
It's all good. Okay, first question. If I ask for an IEP meeting in writing, how soon do they have to do it? I live in Northern California. Very succinct.
Okay, 30 days, unless there is a school holiday in excess of 5 days or summer break. So that means that winter break is going to be, taken out. It's spring break if it's 2 weeks, and the summer vacation. So the single worst time to ask for an evaluation is probably 15 days before school ends. There's different, rules that apply, or the same rule applies in a different way if you go to year-round school, but let's just say generally that's the way it's going to work.
So if I write and ask for an IEP today, and let's say that school starts September 1st, the school in California would have 30 days from September 1st. Now, is that 30 calendar days, or is that 30?
It's 30 calendar days, not 30 business days.
Okay. So if I ask for it on September 1st, they've got to have it by October 1st, an IEP.
That's right.
All right.
Right.
All right, great. So that will help that. Now let's move on to the next one. Can a school just do away with a program and then force me to put my child on a bus for an hour? My son is in 2nd grade and has been going to school down the street in a special day class. Now they're telling me that they aren't going to have a special day class at his school, and the closest school will mean that he has to be on the bus for an hour in the morning and 40 minutes in the afternoon. What are our rights?
Okay. Well, the answer to that is that, districts can close programs, and when they do close programs, the stay put rule does not apply. There's a school closure or classroom closure exception, and then they have the duty to offer FAPE anew, looking at what worked for the person, but also they do have to offer transportation. Transportation is a related service. And then you get into this question of, at what point does the length of the bus ride constitute a denial of FAPE?
Right.
And there's not one hard and fast rule. It's kind of a list of factors that are looked at, like, where do you live? What other programs are available? How unique are the needs and how difficult to satisfy? I looked at this issue before. Not too many people were winning on the issue that the length of the commute was a denial of FAPE, and they said that in one case at least, an hour and a half drive each way was not a denial of FAPE.
You have shown me something before, though, Bonnie. There's language somewhere, and I think it's under LRE. There's language that says that they have to make, it's something like a reasonable attempt for the child to have their offer of FAPE has to be reasonably close to if they had been able, as if they were able to, I don't know what the language is, but it reads in such a way that you can interpret it that they should be able to go to their home school and get their FAPE.
Okay, well, that's kind of a little different question though than the transportation question. I think what you're thinking about is for any person that has an IEP, the presumption is going to be that the student can be educated in the general education classroom with supports.
I see.
Okay. And so if you can be educated in the general education classroom with supports, you should be able to do that at your home school.
But if you're moved to special education, then it's all bets are off?
If they don't have an appropriate, well, if they have a general ed classroom and you can be successfully educated in general ed with support, then no. all bets are not off. But if you need a special day class, then they're going to be able to put you or offer to put you where they want to put you within the district to find an appropriate class. But I mean, I think what you're probably more likely dealing with is a situation where the student needs to go to a program that's not a public program and it's far away. That's usually what you run into.
Right. I just see a lot of families having this issue where you're taking a kid that, you know, you're fighting for every hour to have this kid be engaged and be educating, and what you're doing is sticking them on a bus for an hour and 40 minutes of their day.
Well, that would only be true when there's been consideration of why this, you know, if the disability is such that the education in the regular class can't be achieved satisfactorily.
Yeah, but it's but if you've decided that, then I mean, it follows that child, that individual needs more support. They're needing more time to be able to learn, and instead we're putting them on a bus for 2 hours of the day when that time could have been used at home or at school to learn more. It's really backward thinking.
Well, the presumption is that the child is going to receive the same transportation service as a transportation that's provided to non-disabled kids. But if the IEP team determines that the child needs to go to a particular placement, and the only way to get there is by a bus or a taxi, and there's no other option, I mean, you're kind of, you know,
you're stuck.
Tiptoeing into another area that we talk about periodically on this program, and that is the lack of appropriate placements for students. So let's take something very close to home that's a concrete example. The South Bay of Los Angeles historically has not had a lot of charter schools or private schools. And LAUSD's catchment area extends all the way down to San Pedro. So if you have a kid in the South Bay or San Pedro and they need to go to, let's say, a help group program up in Mar Vista, and there's no program for emotionally disturbed kids that's appropriate between the South Bay and Mar Vista, the district's going to try to put them on a bus because that's cheaper. And what the district probably ends up doing in a lot of these cases is paying for a taxi that's faster. But even in a taxi that's faster, I think we're looking at like 45 minutes a day each way to go from certain places in the South Bay to Mar Vista. And there's no solution to that except for the parents, you know, to push for the creation of more programs, which I actually think is happening slowly. I think, you know, the need is so great that that parents are forcing people, or parents are the people that are starting private schools for autism. And you guys are going to see more and more kids that are going to go to private school and force the district to pay for it because there aren't appropriate public placements.
Yeah, well, you know, when we say you have a right.
How well do I do in the car when I'm in the car an hour and a half? You know, I get really cranky.
Well, and you get antsy, and then your ability to focus the minute you get there is going to be compromised. You know, we all have the right to free, appropriate public education. Asterisk, we might have to put you on a bus for an hour and a half to get to it.
Well, but remember, you can be raising at your IEP the issue that the transportation, you know, constitutes a denial of FAPE.
Right.
And that
because it's not appropriate. That's the argument. It's not appropriate.
Environment. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I want to move on to this next question because we're running out of time. Because this is the one that everybody writes in all over and over and over. How do I get an aid for my child? In this case, she says she is starting TK, transition kindergarten, next month.
Okay. Well, the first thing that parent needs is an assessment that's actually going to be interested in what's good for the kid. So, you know, the way to get an assessment is to review the district's assessment and request an outside evaluation on the grounds that the district's evaluation isn't appropriate. Once you get that granted, the outside evaluator is going to come in and look at how on task or off task the student is without an aid. it's very hard for the parent to make that showing without an expert. So I had a kid in a non-public school, and I got, I think in this case the parent paid for the evaluator. He went in and he said, I took data, your student is off task 75% of the time. So guess what we got? An aid.
Right.
So, that's, I think, like trying to get an aid as a compensatory service is hard. The only other way I can think of that you can get an aid is some people are having a little bit of success bringing in their insurance-funded ABA support. But I would say that, for your FAPE, which includes, in some, as a service, a one-to-one aid, you need an outside evaluation. You can't do any of this without an outside evaluation.
Okay,
really.
so they're a month away from starting school. They could go and get an outside evaluation right now and pay out of pocket to do that.
Correct.
Or they could wait till school starts, request the school to do an outside.
No. If they request if they write a letter and they contend that the district's evaluation was inappropriate, the district doesn't get to wait until fall to answer that letter.
Okay.
The district has to answer within a reasonable time, and there's no exclusion for summer or school breaks.
Okay.
So what we do when we write the IDE letter is we calendar it for 30 days, and if 30 days goes by and they don't respond, then we write them and say, you've delayed too long, you need to give us the evaluation.
Okay.
And I'd say I'm getting for every 10 letters I write, I'm getting 8 or 9 evaluations paid for.
Okay.
It's a very high rate of success.
So get that letter written today asking for an independent outside evaluation and saying in the letter that school needs to pay for it.
Right, and the thing is, it's better to write a letter in which you tell them what's wrong with their evaluation.
Okay.
But if you can't do that, you don't have to give reasons. That's you could just say, I don't think the district's evaluation is appropriate. Sometimes they think, oh, well, this parent doesn't have an attorney. We'll give her this evaluation. She'll go away and we won't have to deal with her anymore.
Okay. And better to do this letter with legal help.
Well, I think so, because you want to maximize your chances of getting the evaluation.
And as you said in the earlier conversation, so it may cost you a little bit to get a lawyer to write the letter, but that evaluation's just, if you had to pay for it out of pocket, would probably be $5,000. So you're going to save money there.
Or less, because my law clerk is really good at writing these letters. She can sometimes bang one out in a half an hour. I'm going to send you guys like a sanitized IEE letter.
Okay.
So you can see what they look like.
Okay, and we'll put that up on Facebook. But you're going to save a whole lot of money because the lawyer will get them to pay for the evaluation, but then that evaluation is the thing that gets you the aid, which, you're going to save yourself a lot of money. So better to do that with a lawyer. And again, if you're in California, call Bonnie, ask her to do it. But if you're in another state, you can go to copaa.net to find somebody who can do that letter for you. But do it quickly.
And also, in terms of educating yourself, Rights Law has a lot of stuff on the internet about the legal framework for these letters, so you can understand it, and then suggestions about how to write it. So
But part of the getting the lawyer to send it is that it comes from the lawyer, and that shows the school. It isn't just about them writing the letter, because you can write the letter yourself, but when you have it come from a lawyer, it means more. Let's be honest.
Well, that's true, but sometimes I feel like if you sometimes I feel like if it comes from the parent and the district doesn't think that the parent has a lawyer, the district will think, oh, this is just a little bone I'm going to throw the parent, so I'll give them the evaluation, and they'll go away.
Okay.
And then instead what they get is, an evaluation that's very unfavorable to the district, and, the parent, when and then the attorney can kind of do, what's next.
Okay. So, but if you want this for kindergarten, which starts in a month, you got to get busy on it right now.
That's true.
Okay. All right, I'm going to move on
That's
to this
true.
next question, and it's going to have to, I think it's going to have to be our last question. School is
Okay, no
telling me
problem.
that they only have to give me goals and then report on benchmark progress. Don't I get to know what their teaching methods are? Can't I request and have teaching methods like ABA included in the IEP?
Well, the answer to that is that methodology is left up to the district, and you can't force them to utilize a particular methodology. However, I certainly think you can force them to talk about a particular methodology. You know, like we have a lot of discussions about multimodal reading programs and things, and parents can ask for the Nimud Bell reading, but or Orton Gillingham or whatever, but the district cannot be forced to use a particular methodology. Congress decided when it set this all up that the teachers and the administrators were the experts, and so they got to choose the methodology. But you can
But
certainly
choosing
ask
the
them to
methodology
justify.
doesn't mean, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
No, it's okay.
they can choose their methodology, but they have to disclose it to you, don't they?
I don't know if they have to, but I think they will if you ask them to talk about their methodology.
Okay.
And what you usually find out is interesting stuff like we had an IP recently where like the principal of the school didn't even know what reading method they used.
Oh, yeah, I think that's probably more often seen than not. We're going to have to end in a second, but a question just came in on YouTube that Laura D wants to know if you have a child in a special day class and you feel like they're not learning, how can you get the school to pay for private school? Now that's a bigger question. Do you want to wait and answer that question?
Why don't we do how you set up your private school case next week?
Okay. So let's
it does take a little bit of time.
So Laura D, unfortunately, I'm going to ask you to wait until next week, unless you live in the state of California and want to consult with Bonnie in the meantime, because she could give you a call. So Bonnie, let's end by talking to us again about Hirji and Chow and the phone number where people can get a hold of you.
Sure. The phone number is 310-391-0330.
And I'm just making a note that next week we're going to talk about how you put together your private school requests so that your child can go to private school.
Right, and we're going to send you an IEE letter, and then if you could post that, and if people have questions about that, we can talk about that also.
Fabulous. Let's plan on doing that. And that's tell us what IEE stands for again, because even I know what it means, but I don't know what.
Individual Educational Evaluation.
Okay, individual education evaluations. It's your request to the school to pay for an evaluation that they're not doing, that it's a third party that does that.
Right.
Correct?
Okay.
Okay.
Let me be very specific right before we go.
Okay.
Let's take one evaluator, Dr. Ann Simon, who's a very well-regarded neuropsychologist in Southern California. She trains other neuropsychologists how to administer neuropsychology tests. She's testified a zillion times. You know, she's a very, very experienced evaluator who understands special education very well. LAUSD has her on their IEE list. So, you know, I mean, you get into a little fight with them about how much they want to pay for it, but that's a separate chapter of the whole discussion. But they will pay $5,000 for her to come in and do a psycho-ed evaluation.
And
that's
I would assume
amazing.
when parents are writing into us and saying, you know, they want to get an evaluation, sometimes there's a 6-month waiting list. I would assume that when you're going through the school and they're picking the evaluator, that it's a faster process.
Well, but even if they don't pick the evaluator, it seems to me that what happens a lot of the time is that when the district approaches these people to do the evaluation, they like fast track it, because the
Right.
district will say, we need this done within 60 days, and they'll say, okay. Seems
There
to
you
be
go.
working pretty well.
It's very beneficial to do that. Bonnie, we thank you so much. Say hi to everybody
Not
at
a
Hirji and
problem.
Chow for us, and we will look forward to talking to you next week. Thank you so much. All right,
Okay,
take care.
bye.
Bye-bye. All right, so that was Bonnie Yates on the phone from Hirji and Chow. And I just seeing all the messages that I got while we were doing that interview. And we are going to take a short break, and then we're going to welcome Linda B. Hall to the studio. She's going to talk to us about the Inclusion Clubhouse and the special needs prom that they're holding next weekend. Stick with us.
Potty training is different for every child. A child could come in with absolutely, no control over their bladder, and as long as that's not a medical issue, then we can certainly approach it behaviorally and give them the tools they need to be successful, just like any other skill that we would teach.
Well, we think he's learning to pee on the potty. No big successes yet, and lots of accidents. Here is the laundry from today.
For some of our kids takes, just a couple days. And then for other kids, it can take months and months and months. And then when you're looking at complete independence, it can take years.
Hey, you have to go pee-pee?
There's a lot of different ways to tell if a child is ready. We look for a couple different things. Probably the most important is parents saying, I need this to happen, I'm ready. Second is, a child showing interest in the bathroom, and some of it is simply age. It's time to go ahead and work on this.
What are you doing? Pooping. You're pooping?
You first start with teaching the child what they need to do on the toilet. The basic thing we want is for them to drink as much liquid as possible. It's inevitable that if you drink a bunch of liquid, you're gonna pee.
Help. No, I can't help you pee. Help. I can hold your hand, but I can't help you pee.
Ultimately, what we want is that, the child, as soon as they're put on the toilet, they urinate. So that's step one. Step two is usually working through the amount of time that they're off of the toilet and making sure that they're not having accidents during the time that they're off. So this is kind of the bladder control stage of things.
So the purpose of the potty log is just to see how long it takes them as soon as they sit on the potty for them to actually urinate, and the amount of time that he's able to hold his urine. And with the log, we're able to visually see how long it takes them each time, and if they have accidents or not. He's on a half-hour potty schedule, so if he doesn't go when we take him, then we have to take him in 10 more minutes. So every 10-minute intervals until he does go, and then we reset the clock, and it's 30 minutes again.
Okay, buddy. Okay, last chance to go pee-pees. Do we reset it for 10?
Oh, what does that mean? What does that mean, Jack? It's potty time! We can come play after. Hurry!
What we hope happens in this time is that the kids will learn how to initiate going to the bathroom on their own. This is oftentimes the hardest part of potty training, is because they get so used to somebody telling them when they need to go that they're not really recognizing the signs just in their own body of when they need to go.
Uh-oh, he wet himself.
Uh-oh. Big wet?
Was it a lot? We can reset to half an hour now.
The biggest thing for parents is not to give up. The other big tip, and I think pitfall that a lot of parents fall into, is putting their children back into pull-ups or diapers, especially if they're starting to have accidents. And this is probably the worst thing that you can do. They need to recognize that feeling of fullness in their bladder and take themselves to the bathroom, or tell an adult that they need to go to the bathroom.
What do you have to do? You have to put your pee-pee in the potty. Okay, give it a shot. See if you can put it in there. There you go. There you go. You're doing it. Yay, Jack. Big prayer for your pee-pee.
Big prayer for your pee-pee.
Woo! Yay! Good job. What a big boy. High five, high five, high five, high five, high five, high five, high five.
Hi, I'm Lisa Ackerman. Welcome back to another Talk of Fact. We bring you the most common questions and share those answers that help your journey along for you and your family. One of the most common questions we hear all the time is, why are these doctors working with kids on the autism spectrum so expensive? Well, there's a simple answer. Kids with autism take more time, and unfortunately, if you look at a regular pediatrician's practice, they may see anywhere from 30 to 60 patients every day. So you may get at most 3 to 5 minutes with those doctors. With doctors that specialize in autism, they're called MAPS doctors, the Medical Academy of Pediatric Special Needs. They spend quite more time with each family and each patient. And that could be an hour to an hour and a half for each family that is actually being spent just talking about your child, looking at labs. So why are they more expensive? Well, your pediatrician probably gets paid a lot more per hour based on the number of people they see. A MedMaps doctor is solely dedicated to what you're doing and what your child needs. So look at it this way. If you're spending time with your MedMaps doc and you're working with that doc, and you will literally on average see somewhere between 4 to 7 hours per year. And then don't forget that other fact we talked about, how to get the best possible health care reimbursement. So you can make sure that that time is well spent, not only getting answers, but also reimbursed by health insurance. So there, another very detailed long fact from Talk of Facts.
Welcome back. We are so thrilled and excited because in the studio with us live, we have Linda B. Hall, and she is the founder of an amazing organization called Inclusion Clubhouse. So welcome to Autism Live.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And talk to us a little bit about what is Inclusion Clubhouse, and then I want you to tell us how it got started. So however that figures for you in your storytelling.
Okay. Well, we have 4 children. My husband's an actor and he works a lot. And so it's really hard finding things for everyone. My oldest has cerebral palsy. She's in a wheelchair. She's fully dependent on me for everything that she does. And then I have an 11, a 10, and a 2-year-old, all which are very, very, very active, and all which need their own activities and their own things. While Janai, who is my oldest, also needs to be involved and feel included, and she just wants to be like the rest of them. And so finding places and things that we could all do as a family that were accessible and adaptable for her, as well as keeping the other kids busy. I mean, they're easy to entertain. They're kids who are typically able of entertaining themselves, but what I am finding, and I call myself now the 24/7 Uber, because between basketball and dance and soccer and football and all of the things that kids do in Janai's therapy, I'm like all over the place. Like I'm all the way in from Northridge to downtown LA, and it's a lot. And so my vision was to create a space that has something for everyone.
Okay.
Kind of like a YMCA, but that is more accessible and adaptable for those who are the most severely disabled kids. So my daughter's in a wheelchair. She needs diaper changing, feeding, like everything needs to be done for her. So kids like her have a harder time. Like, yes, there are places who now have camps for kids with special needs. And yes, there are places who hold dance classes or adaptive sports and things like that. But I have yet to find a space that has something for all of our kids.
Right.
Like those who are typically abled could have they could go do sports and recreational activities and social things with their typical peers, as well as our kids with special needs, but then also classes where they could integrate and be inclusive, and we could teach the typical kids how to interact with those who are less able and need assistance. A place where siblings can interact with other siblings going through similar situations. And I use my daughter as an example all the time. Jada shares a room with Janai. And since I want to say Jada was 4, she's had to deal with her sister having seizures in the middle of the night.
Right.
And so she would be the one to wake up in the middle of the night screaming, "Mommy, Mommy, come down. Janai's having a seizure."
Right.
And that's not something that probably any of her friends can relate to, or most of her friends would even know what to do in that situation. and a place where she could meet other siblings going through the same feelings. Also a place for us as parents to just be able to be in a space where we know that everyone isn't looking at us in a way of judgment, or you can't control your kids, or just fear.
Right.
I guess because I think fear has a lot to do with the ignorance that we, you know.
What people don't know, they don't understand, and they fear.
Absolutely.
Which is inappropriate, and we need to mow those barriers down. But it isn't until we have places like Inclusion Clubhouse where we set out from the beginning and say this is a place, and the rules are everybody gets considered, everybody gets included, and we don't shove everybody off into little boxes and go, there you are.
Right.
Because really that's what we want for society.
Correct.
We want to get to the point where we are inclusive and everybody is invited in and considered. We're not going to get there unless we do it with our kids.
Correct.
So what a wonderful thing that you have created. And you have different events throughout the year.
Correct.
And you have got an event that's coming up next weekend.
Yes,
talk to us about it.
Okay, so we have, this is our 5th annual Special Needs Family Prom. And I don't know, I'm debating on changing the name from prom because it's so much more than prom. And I think sometimes people get hung up on that, like, oh, it's only for high school kids.
We've got a picture here.
Yes.
Look at that.
Like
that looks like,
oh my God.
It looks like a rave.
Yeah, they had so much fun. All the kids were on the dance floor. I mean, the performers even got on the dance floor. We had the Rolettes come out and put on a dance for us. It really, the kids are amazing. A friend of ours, Kobe, that we have.
Kobe Bird. You guys love Kobe.
He, you know, last year was the first time he came to prom. And this year I had him go with me on Table for Five on LA Talk Radio and talk about his experience at prom. And it was just amazing to hear from him the fact that, like, a lot of times our kids don't see themselves in these situations because either they're a little shy or embarrassed, they're afraid that they're going to be judged, they don't know what to do, they might feel a little awkward. And, you know, he summed it up best. He's like, it felt like family. And I was super nervous, and this just made me feel like home. Like it was, everyone was dancing, the performers would come off stage and get on the dance floor with the kids got on stage with the performers, and it really is, it allows us to see what a little bit of what Inclusion Clubhouse would be like, because you have community members, typical kids interacting with those with special needs, and the siblings too. Last year we had a mom, I'm not sure if you know Dejour, she's also a friend with Kobe's, but she has Down syndrome, and she is just a light. She's just very outgoing and very social, and, you know, she has a little sister and a little brother, and her sister came to prom as well. And, you know, the sister's a little more shy because her big sister gets all the attention and requires the most assistance with everything, even though she's very outgoing and outspoken. And her mom came up to me and was just like, this is amazing. My daughter doesn't, you know, socialize with anyone because she's always, her sister's getting all the attention, so she's really shy. And she was like, your daughter just really pulled her in and showed her the way and, you know, introduced her to people and had a great time. And, you know, and then I asked my daughter, she's like, well, Mom, I know exactly how she feels. I know what she's going through. And that was without me even saying, like, this is why I'm doing it. But she came out, and my daughter's 11, and she was like, I could tell, like, and that's how I feel a lot of times with Chennai. And so I wanted to make sure that she wasn't sad because it's a happy time.
Well, I always say that, you know, the siblings of our special needs kids are they grow up to be incredible people. They're incredible kids, and they grow up to be incredible people because they're taught all the things that we really need to front load everybody with, which is that it's not always about me, that sometimes somebody has something going on that you may not be able to discern just by looking at them. And that there are other things that sometimes are more important. And when you send people out into the world like that, they're game changers. They really, really are. And so I love the fact that as much as it's about including those who have different abilities and different needs, it's about bringing their siblings along with them as well, to help create the change that it is that you're looking to see. So what a wonderful thing. So for people that are, where is the prom held?
Okay, so this year it's going to be at Lowe's Hollywood Hotel.
Okay.
Hollywood and Highland.
So you'd have to be in the Hollywood, California area to come, or be willing to travel to come to it. But people can buy tickets to come.
They can go on our website, www.inclusionclubhouse.org.
Okay.
We also, if you're following us on social media, at Inclusion Clubhouse or at Linda Baptista Hall, there's a direct link on our profile that will take you directly to the ticket page.
Okay.
And to hit on that, every year we have people who travel. We have people who travel from Northern California for like the past 3 years. We've had people come from Florida, from North Carolina, Virginia. So every year, Chicago, we've had people come from all different places. So for me, if you're anywhere in SoCal, it's an easy drive.
Right.
But,
so you can get it. You can get tickets to come. And what all does the ticket price include?
So the ticket price for prom includes food. We do a red carpet. Everyone's welcome on the carpet, and the kids, of course, love that.
Right.
So we have the ballroom where all the dancing, the live entertainment, a DJ. We're also working with Jazz Hands for Autism, so they're providing us with the DJ, also some performers. So the other thing with me and prom is really encouraging all of our special needs community to just live their best lives. And if they enjoy singing, if they perform, if they have any talents, prom is a place where they're welcome to showcase them as well. We're big on that. So it could always perform next year if that's something that you like to do. But yeah, then we also have a sensory room. So given that some of our kids don't like loud noises or lots of flashing lights and things, we also have a sensory room separate from the ballroom that is usually more of a quiet space. Every year it's themed out. Last year was Aladdin, and this year is the Enchanted Forest.
Love it.
So this year we're looking at more like water and like waterfalls or streams, because I'm thinking of Enchanted and Forest, and we'll have like water play, we'll have face painting, we have someone doing silhouettes. We also have a few sponsors from I believe the Miracle Project will be there. So we've reached out to other organizations to come and create like their own little sensory table for the kids. We typically have like arts and crafts as well for them to stay busy. They can do prom photos in there. So each year we have different activities in the sensory room for the kids to be entertained outside of the ballroom, or if they just need a break space. Last year with Aladdin, we had like those tents, the Arabian tents full of pillows, and and there were jewels and fabrics that they could touch and play with, and we had like kinetic sand so that it was like Arabian themed. But yeah, it's just a space where they can go and take a break if needed, and then go back to having fun.
We can't overstate the importance of having a place where you can go, where you feel like you're invited, where you're not going to be shunned, and have it be a celebratory space. And also having it be something that's year in, that's year out. It gives something for families to look forward to, something for the kids to look forward to, a place to connect with other people, like-minded people. And it is for all abilities. So it is not an autism event, but certainly autism is welcome at the event. And you will be able to see people who are dealing with things other than autism, which I think is good for the autism community, because a lot of times we get so insulated in autism that we don't see that there are other people with other challenges that are very, very real, and that we can work together. That there's nothing better than when our kids are able to make friends with people of all abilities, because then we're spreading exactly what we need to spread. So really remarkable. Again, they can get the tickets. What is the ticket price?
I believe, because we had sales and whatnot.
All right, check out on the website. Then.
Yes,
you don't want to
there's-
misquote.
there's
Check out on the
different.
website.
And also, if you follow us on social media, we're going to be offering flash sales.
Okay.
So we also had free tickets for special needs guests.
Okay.
And their +1.
Okay.
Not sure how many are still left.
Okay.
Because I think I started with like 25, and
All right.
I may be already sold at 20 sold.
Okay.
So, but please feel free to check the website. And if the free tickets are all out, I know it's $50 for the regular, and then $25 for kids under 14.
Okay. So check it out so that you see the vast array of what's available. And but this is not the only event that you guys do. You have other events too, and I'm sure that you have to be doing some fundraising to make this kind of thing possible. So tell us what else you have coming up, and if there's somebody who sees this and goes, oh, I want to be a part of this, I want to help, I want to fundraise, or my company wants to sponsor, what they would do, where they would go.
Well, you can find all that on our website, inclusionclubhouse.org. But yeah, absolutely. We definitely need sponsors, donors. Prom is gotten really expensive. It started off very small, but each year it gets bigger and bigger because we get more kids. And for me, it's really about making sure that these kids can come to prom and that their families can experience it. And so I offer a lot of free tickets. And if I have someone call me up, hey, you're out of free tickets, but we really want to come, I'm like, all right, come on, I'll just write you in. Because it really, for me, yes, it's a fundraiser. And yes, we need to raise money. But for me, it's more of just that feeling of being in that space and watching how much they appreciate it and how much they love it, that it's more about that. So, but we definitely need sponsors to help us continue to make it happen.
Your family has to keep progressing, and this can't all be out of your pockets, and
correct.
People need to realize that. That's why, if you can afford the ticket price, pay the ticket price, because that helps her to be able to put on these events.
Correct.
So, but what else do you have going on this year?
We have our kids karaoke, which is amazing. Last year, it was last October, we did our first, and Kobe performed.
And he is a fantastic singer.
Gosh,
a lot of our viewers know Kobe, and they saw him first when he was a part of Miracle Project and had seen him sing on the show. But then many more people came and watched him after they saw him on The Good Doctor. But he's awesome. He is quite the singer, and gets better every year.
Time.
My goodness.
He's amazing. But what was great about it is that we kind of made it a contest. So we had lots of typical kids submitting, like, I want to sing on stage. And it was really great. And so we had all these kids who wanted to perform. And we did it like karaoke. And we did it kind of like we had celebrities judge. So this year, for the kids karaoke, we had kid celebrities, which was really cool. Really cool. We had some Disney kids. We had, Real Downs, who's on, I believe, what's that show? Henry Danger, I think.
I'm
Harry
slightly
Henry
out
Danger.
of the loop on what the kids' shows are on Disney right now.
And,
I apologize.
And then Girl Meets World.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember Boy Meets World, but one of the girls on Girl Meets World, and her little sister, who is then on an adult show, but plays the kid on an adult show with Ryan Phillippe. So it was really fun. I mean, we also had adult celebrities judging as well. We had Shanice, the singer, and my husband, and Jason Canella. But it was more about the kids.
Right.
And, they got on stage. And for those, we had kids with autism perform. We had kids with Down syndrome perform. And then for those who couldn't sing, a lot of our typical kids just had them get up on stage with them and perform with them, and either be backup dancers or just whatever they wanted to do on stage, which was really great to see how compassionate the kids are. And that for me is a big thing. Like, I want to bridge that gap, and I want to teach compassion and patience and tolerance and acceptance and all of that stuff. And I hope that by creating more of these events and having a space where we can just have these happen all the time. Right now, I'm kind of begging and borrowing for space or paying for space in order to do them. versus, you know, having a space that we can just run this stuff and have this stuff happening all the time.
Well, we're going to wish that upon you. We have to let you go because I know you have other things to do today to get ready for prom.
Yes.
But I want to thank you for taking the time to come in today and share this with us and the work that you're doing, inclusionclubhouse.org.
Yes.
Check it out, you guys, and come to one of these events and feel it is so soothing when you can go someplace and feel like you're a part of. That is part of what we all need to feel. You need to feel it. Your kids need to feel it. All of your kids need to feel it. So participate in any way that you can. Thank you so much for coming with us. We're going to take a break, and then I'm going to be back to finish out the show with our mindfulness moment. So stick with us.
Are those your eyes? Is that your smile? I've been looking at you forever, yet I never saw you before. Are these your hands?
As a celebrity, whatever that means, you want to do what you can to give back. The way I've always looked at it, if I'm available, I'm going to be there. And when you get there and you see what folks are doing and the lives that they're touching, how can you not want to continue to be a part of it?
And for the first time, I am looking.
What can we all do to make a difference? Not only with trying to find a cure, but to help the children and the families that may not have the resources for these kids.
When you're looking back at me, now I understand what...
None of us are doing enough, but I think that we're doing as much as we possibly can. Because we all live in society, and the more we can all do to help society, the more it helps all of us.
And for the first time, I am looking in your eyes, and for the first time I'm seeing who you are. I can't believe how much I see when you're looking back at me. Now I understand what love is. Love is for the first time.
Hello, fellow activists. In our last segment, we talked about step number 2, educate yourself. Step number 3 is get support. Now, any journey can feel overwhelming if you feel like you're walking it alone. Well, you're far from alone, because with 1 in 50 kids diagnosed with autism today, there are a lot of us out there. Of course, there's always the issue of financial support. Now, there's a handful of organizations out there that offer financial support to families in need. ACT Today, or Autism Care and Treatment Today, is one of them. Visit our website at www.act-today.org to find out more about our grant process. I want to talk about a different kind of support today, emotional support. Now, you can get that from other travelers on this path. Some of the best advice I've ever received is from the moms of other kids with autism who went to school with Wyatt or were involved with programs with him. Then there are the pioneers. These are the families that have gone through this years ago, and there was very little information out there. All of these people seem to have the desire to pay it forward. Now, one of them, Lisa Ackerman, who is one of my mentors, started an organization called TACA, Talk About Curing Autism. She actually took the concept of mentors and support groups and made it available to everybody. You can go to their website, talkaboutcuringautism.org, to find out more. During the first and most difficult year after Wyatt's diagnosis, I wrote an email to close family and friends, letting them know what was going on and the challenges our family was facing, and why we dropped out of sight. I was amazed at the outpouring of love and affection and all the help I received from that email. First, you have to be vulnerable. You can't be afraid to ask. Try this out. Could you cook me a meal? Are you going to the market? Can you pick me up a few things? Could your kids play with my kid and make them feel included? Or can you come over and clean my house? Well, maybe not that last one, except with your best friend. And maybe the best support of all is having someone that listens, and that doesn't cost a dime. So until next time, surround yourself with the loving kindness of others and keep the faith.
Inclusion is everything. Feeling like we have a place where we belong, and when I say we, I'm first and foremost a mother of a child on the spectrum and not, and gym owner and now founder of carrying this to families who need it as well.
My son is extremely hyperactive. Getting him to calm down is a very difficult task. So the idea of Rock the Spectrum Gym, where he could just go and run and play and do all these fun things without any kind of worries and just go, go, go and bring down that energy, it helps us so much at home. You know, in the home or at school, it's not acceptable, but this is the one place it is acceptable for the child to kind of be themselves and get it all out there and just really just be themselves.
It's an amazing place where my son could go and be himself. You get to meet other parents who are in the same journey as you are.
I think the most popular aspect of it is how they include all children of all types, not just only learning disabled, lower functioning, moderate functioning, high functioning, and non-disabled.
The people there are so friendly. Everybody's like family. They always greet you with a smile. There's not one negative thing I could say about any of the employees. They're all absolutely amazing. So I think every parent should walk in through those doors and see what an amazing gym it is.
Now a diagnosis meaning 1 out of 6 kids are in some way or form affected with sensory processing disorder or autism. That's why We Rock Now is on the rise. People want to be a part of it. People know that they have a community there. They know that they can learn more information about things that they don't know themselves or that they can share, build friendships, and basically get what you get in an OT facility, but it's not $150 an hour. It's $12.
We love the We Rock Kids gyms and Dina Kimmel. Okay, so much to cover in so little time, but I promised that we were going to talk a little bit about the manifesto. So that's what we call it, is the manifesto. You can call it whatever you want. You can call it the plan, you can call it the steps, whatever, but at some point, and I want to encourage you not only to do this for yourself, but it's really important that you do it with your significant other. And when your kids are older, even before you think they can handle it, pull them into the conversation. But as a family, you got to know what's most important to you. I'm not a very religious person. I'm just going to be honest with you, but I tend to be a very spiritual person. And I love families that are religious, though, because they already understand this, that somewhere in their house there is a list and they say, first priority is that, we follow this religious practice, right? They're very clear on what has the highest need. And, and so it may say, okay, the first thing that we have on our list is that we go to church, and we go to church as a family. And that's non-negotiable. And on, Sunday at 11, we're in the church pew, and that's what we do. And what my husband and I realized was that we needed to get that way about our lives. It just wasn't that wasn't our thing. So, on our list in the beginning, in the first year that my son was diagnosed with autism, when we understood the importance of ABA and how critical it was going to be, and that we had caught it at a window in which every minute was going to really determine whether he was going to have a successful outcome, we put at the top of our list our son's therapy and what would help him with autism. And then the second thing was keeping a roof over our head. I'm just being honest with you, right? And then the third thing was looking a little bit further down the road was that, you know, my husband was an actor. We were just talking to somebody who their husband was an actor. And so he needed to be working the job that he was doing, and I needed to find work that I could do around the therapies, but that we needed to be looking for something that, you know, could help us down the road and not just survive, because you want to thrive too. So the next thing down was my husband's acting career, because, you know, if he got a commercial, that would be enough money for us to do 1, 2, and 3, right? So that was on the list. And then there were more things. And I want to say, you know, that in the beginning, my career and my things was not in the top 10. It wasn't there. And it wasn't there because we as a family, but me first, I chose that. I said, right now my career is going to be my kid and his therapies, and that requires me full time, and I'm cognizant of that. And so our list reflected that. Not everybody has the luxury, and I say that with the full knowledge that for us, it wasn't a luxury, right? It meant that we halved our income and all the things that meant, right? I'm going to be figuring that out. I don't know if we're ever going to be out of that debt, but it was what we said was most important. And we were sure that we knew why that was most important. Later years, my career came back into play. It absolutely did. So for those of you who, first of all, have decided to succumb to that and say, I'm putting my eggs in this basket and I'm going to come back to it, I want to tell you, you know, it's not the worst thing that can happen to you, and that a time comes when you can come back to your career. But we just were clear, these are what are things that are most important. And we try to revisit it every year and go, okay, what are we trying to do here? What is it that we as a family are trying to do? Last summer, as we looked at it, and my son and I and my husband both agreed, all three of us agreed that my son and I needed to be doing more traveling, that we wanted to get to more of you so that you could hear the story of hope. So that changed things. So set yourself, whatever it is, the manifesto, and then see if you can follow it. And I'll tell you a secret, that if you can't follow it, it's because you don't have the list right. When you have the list right and you look at it and you go, right, that's the most important thing, you will find that it's easy to follow it. Easy is not the right word, that there's some peace involved in it. Not easy, hard, but peace in it. Okay, so make yourself a manifesto. Be mindful of the choices that you are choosing. And when things get tough, you'll be able to go, yep, this is tough, but remember why we chose this? This is the reason why. And then it gets peaceful. I had 2 questions that came in here at the end of the hour, and I know I've got 3 minutes. I'm not going to answer them, but I just want to say, for the mom who wrote it in and said, we need an updated evaluation for a 2-year-old. I would tell you the first thing that I want you to do, because you're saying, is there something in Chicago? There are CARD offices in Chicago. I want you to go on centerforautism.com. Start filling out the portal. Let's see if your insurance covers, because there's all kinds of things in Chicago that you could do through CARD. So please go and do that, and then we'll have Dr. Granpeesheh answer the rest of your question next week, but it will make more sense. And then for the person who wrote in about the child who is becoming very prompt dependent, I want you to know I saw your question, and we're going to get somebody to answer your question. I want to know where you are. Can you please write to me and tell me if you're in California, because there are different things that I have available for you if you're in California. How's that? So give me a little bit more information for both those people that wrote in. I just want to thank you guys for being here. It is such a privilege to be here with you in this space, in this time, and talking about these things that have the potential to enrich our lives and to enrich all of our kids' lives. It is just such a privilege for me. We are going to be back next Wednesday. We've got a big show planned for you again. Until then, I just want to tell you, sending you an air hug. Give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now.